Hello and welcome to Neography A to Z. On this channel, I take an analytical approach to reviewing the functionality of invented writing systems. That is, writing systems that were explicitly created, engineered, or invented for a constructed language, or to be used in place of an already existing system. I also review these systems for their aesthetic appeal in a less analytical way, but relying on decades of in-depth study and work in the field. On this episode, we're reviewing Gallifreyan. Sherman's Gallifreyan was created in 2011 by Lauren Sherman. Much like the Klingon system Picard, the Gallifreyan system first appeared as set dressing for the popular sci-fi show Doctor Who. It has since been reinterpreted and adapted by numerous loyal fans. As can be seen on the screen, the Gallifrey script has been used in many episodes of Doctor Who. I have to admit, though, I've only ever watched a few episodes of the show, and that was several decades ago. I've never seen this script while watching the show, or at least I don't remember it. It does seem that it adds a layer of substance to the Time Lords and their world. However, it's almost certain that none of these images mean anything and are simply set decoration. On the left, we see a few more screen captures from various episodes. On the right, a photo of a prop that was actually used on Doctor Who. The intricacy and detail is quite good. What's important, however, is that none of this is ever given any substantive explanation. Its use as set dressing has not prevented fans from developing inspired creations. The most popular and widespread of these is called Sherman's Gallifreyan. The two most interesting variations on Gallifreyan, other than Sherman's, of the dozens that are available, are something called Clockwork by Nicola Fahey and Flux by a user named CWKH. Flux is especially notable as it has adaptations for Cyrillic, Greek, Arabic, math equations, and musical notation. It's important to note, though, that all of the variations of Gallifreyan are only ciphers. A few of them make attempts at linguistic depth and understanding of phonetics, but ultimately they all fail to be anything but overly complex ciphers. Now we'll take a look at functionality. Here we have the basic correspondence chart, showing that a curve or circle coupled with various numbers of dots or lines constitutes the basis for representing a consonant. The keen observer will note the almost complete lack of phonological awareness, as C can be replaced by K or S, and Q is replaced by QU digraph. But the digraph TH is apparently used for both of its possible pronunciation, not to mention any dialectical variations thereof. Vowels are appended to either consonants or words, apparently based on preference over explicit spelling rules. From the Omniglot entry on Sherman's Gallifreyan, quote, lines can be shared between consonants and vowels, allowing for letters like S and F to have three lines connected to each other rather than lines everywhere. It's optional, but makes it easier to read and shows a sign that you know what you're doing. Vowels are usually attached to letters, but don't have to be, if no letter is there to possibly attach to. They are attached to the word. End quote. If this description seems vague to you, it's because it most certainly is. Being a cipher, Sherman's Gallifreyan is quite basic in its functionality. The only attribute that is orthographically significant is the variability of lexical formation, meaning that letters have a specified form, but that form is mutable or adaptable to the overall formation of a word glyph. The primary rule seems to be that all letters in a word must be present and are then read counterclockwise. Although the variability means that legibility is dependent on the reader knowing the style preferences of the composition's author. Sentences or phrases, like words, are read counterclockwise. On the left is the sentence composition. The right demonstrates the sentence circle. As can be seen, Sherman's also includes various punctuation that appears obligatory in each composition. Gallifreyan has been referred to as a graphed alphabet, but this is completely meaningless from a linguistic perspective. A more appropriate description might be a composition of interlaced symbols that equate to a highly intuitive pseudo-phonetic English cipher. Phrases or paragraphs are linked in what can best be described as globular constellations. Numbers are indicated by concentric rings, read outer to inner, each ring being a digit. While complex in appearance, this script is only a cipher and strictly based on English. Now we'll go over the aesthetics. The variability of Gallifreyan comes through most obviously when fans attempt to generate new phrases. Here we see the same quote from Yoda, "Do or do not, there is no try," composed on 3 different Gallifreyan generators. Examples 1 and 3 above appear to have similarities, but number 2 seems to be from a wildly different composition pattern. This means that the author of any Gallifreyan composition is free to write it in any way, using whichever pattern suits their style. To some, this may be a laudable attribute, but what it indicates is that this is barely even a cipher, so much as a way to make pleasing designs and ascribe some meaning to it. Like other scripts that have been reviewed here, fans of Gallifreyan have decided to permanently display their fandom in the form of tattoos. Tattoo number 1 supposedly means, "Who I am is where I stand." Tattoo number 2 might mean lunar moth, according to a few Redditors, but tattoo number 3 is purportedly a poem by Emily Dickinson. Quote, "Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul, and sings the tune without words, and never stops at all." End quote. Which sounds nice, but seems utterly unreadable based on the design of Sherman's cipher. These tattoos, while being permanent reminders of fandom, illustrate that a lack of coherent design leads to wildly divergent representations of a poorly designed cipher. Obviously, the nerddom isn't confined to body art. There are a multitude of products available on Etsy for fans to spend money on, though, despite looking like simple protractor drawings made by a middle schooler, folks seem to enjoy them. I would also caution that you research which version of Gallifreyan is being used before you plop down $60 on a clock that might be a recipe for strychnine. The arbitrary nature of how Gallifreyan functions means that it can result in quite aesthetically pleasing compositions. However, they're no different than any other abstract art due to the cipher functioning in such a vague and decidedly unliteral way. The script should have remained set dressing alone. While the visual design is mildly appealing, it loses all of its appeal the moment quote-unquote translation reveals it as an overly ambiguous, some might even say chaotic, cipher for English. During the research for this video, I found numerous comments online that basically state Gallifreyan from the show doesn't really translate into anything, so all the translators and generators are basically unreliable. I give Gallifreyan a rating of 1 out of 5 for functionality because it is just a cipher, and only 2 out of 5 for aesthetics because as it can be pleasing and appealing, it has no basic meaning. Normally, I would use this slide to translate "thank you" into the conlang corresponding to the script being reviewed, but since this is a cipher, that seems rather silly, so I'll just say thank you. These are my thoughts on Gallifreyan. I'm interested in hearing yours. Next time, we will be discussing Elkaril by Mark Rosenfelder, also known as Zompist, so be sure to click the bell button to be notified when the next episode is posted. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I very much appreciate your time and thank you for watching. As a note, all relevant links used in the making of this video are in the description. All information is the property of its creators and is openly available online.